You disappeared again.
It's my dog!
Does she like you?
What have you done?
The story begins with Bob arriving to start his workday at a lumber mill. He puts on a helmet and safety vest, heads to his locker, and changes into overalls. Meanwhile, a girl named Eva is having a heated discussion with her moms, Darling and Mole. They're concerned because Eva has been skipping school and behaving differently. Darling is worried about Eva's future in college, but Eva reveals her plan to travel with her friend Amelia after high school using her father's money. Darling disagrees, saying the money is meant for college, leading to Eva storming out of the house. Later that day, Bob returns home from work and gets a call from Darling, who tells him about Eva's troubling behavior. She urges him to reconnect with Eva, who hasn't seen him in 8 years. Bob is hesitant and tells Darling that Eva needs to move on without him before ending the call abruptly. At home, Bob tries to relax with a beer and a cigarette. As he unwinds, he removes bandages from his hands, revealing a skin disease. Next, Bob is sitting at a bar and talking with a bartender when a group of people walks in. Bob then meets with one of them outside, Nelson, who is a drug peddler. They talk about Nelson's boss, Crispy. Nelson mentions a video he saw online about a fight before Bob cuts him off. Bob tries to buy his usual drugs from Nelson, but gets agitated because the price has gone up by double. Regardless, he takes half his usual dose and walks away after cussing at Crispy. The day at work, Bob notices something wrong with the machine, and the person he reports to asks him to check it. Bob climbs up a flight of stairs, and it seems he has another motive as he looks at the sharp gears, crushing the woods like he intends to jump in. A call from whoever sent him up asking if he needs help brings Bob back to the present, and he decides to take an indefinite leave from work, despite objection from his boss, to visit his daughter. Bob returns home, packs up his bags, and starts the drive out of town. He suddenly hears an intense ringing sound that disorients him, and his truck crashes at the roadside. Bob tries to pull his truck from the ditch, but it does not budge. He leaves it at the side of the road and walks in search of a phone booth. Bob calls Nelson and asks for his help, telling him where to find his truck and meet him at a nearby restaurant. Bob is hurt during the crash and his face is bleeding, so he catches the attention of the waitress when he asks for the bathroom and a coffee. Bob locks himself in the bathroom to examine the damage. When he lifts his shirt, his ribcage is hollow, and the shattered rib is visible. He tears a cloth from a curtain to stop the bleeding, washes his face, and goes to the counter to enjoy his coffee and wait for Nelson. However, the man who comes to his rescue is Nelson's boss, Crispy. Crispy calls a tow truck for Bob's truck and offers to drive Bob into town. On the way, Crispy offers Bob to either tow his truck back to his house, which would cost him a few $100s, or get his truck fixed up and back on the road by the morning, and he will bear the cost. In return, Crispy needs Bob to deliver a package on his way and bring him back a return package on his way back after he is done with his business in the South. Bob agrees to the second option while he rests in the garage, waiting for his car to get fixed. Meanwhile, Crispy kills a bear and cuts it open, removing an organ part, which he packs in an ice cooler and hands to Bob. He gives Bob a phone and an address of where to deliver the package, and Bob is on his way. He arrived at Darlene's house, and she welcomed him excitedly. Bob went to find a place, but Darlene insisted he stay at the house. Mole is on the road, and Eva is at Amelia's house. Bob tops up the ice in the cooler the following morning and starts playing hockey with cans when Eva arrives. Bob excuses himself to deliver the package and turns down Eva when she offers to accompany him. Bob delivers the package to a garage, and the man mentions that he used to be a hockey player before his career suddenly ended. After the man examines the goods, he gets the return package, and Bob is dismissed with a packet of Chinese medicine for his revs. Back at the house, Eva asks Bob about her grandfather, wanting to know what type of crazy he is, but Bob's answer shows no interest in the topic. He mentions that the man killed himself, and the doctors said he had bipolar disorder. Eva leaves to meet up with her friends. She walks into a shop selling traditional Chinese medicine, and the woman in charge asks about the gloves on her hands, which makes her anxious. The woman suggests that she see their doctor, which makes Eva want to leave the store as quickly as possible. The woman gives her tea, saying it suits dry skin, and Eva thanks her on her way out. Eva meets with her friends and convinces them to accompany her to an abandoned mental hospital. Tim backs out, but Amelia, Bijit, and Gagi go with her. The abandoned mental hospital is the same one that Eva's grandfather was treated at. and Eva wants to see if they can find some old files. The four walk down a flight of stairs to the basement, and someone scares them. Amelia accidentally removes Eva's gloves, which are in the same condition as her father's. Amelia is afraid of her, and when Eva tries to help her out of the building, Amelia tells Eva not to touch her. Meanwhile, Bob and Darling spend the day reminiscing. Darling knocked on Eva's door the following morning, but her bed was made. Eva had not come home the previous night or answered Darling's calls. They start to panic since the police refuse to consider that she is missing because it is too soon, and she is 17. Moll tries to blame Bob for the disappearance, but she stops her. While Darling and Moll head back to the police station, Bob rummages through Eva's room and finds a hidden phone. We see Eva locked up in a cage. Bob gets Eva's phone fixed, and they see messages from the group chat about a place they were all heading to. Darling and Bob visit Amelia's house, but Wayne does not let them speak to her. Meanwhile, Crispy gets impatient and calls Bob, who does not appreciate the nagging. Bob hangs up when he sees Beji and Tim. Beji tries to get smart with Bob and insults him. Bob gets angry and holds Beji against the wall, threatening to crush his fingers if he does not tell him Eva's whereabouts. Beji is scared and tells Bob about the visit to the mental hospital. Bob and Darling drove to the mental hospital, but the security guard tried to stop them. Bob forces his way into the institution and rushes to the reception, asking about Eva. They learn that Eva was seen at the institution the previous night, but she and her friends ran away when they saw the guards. The guards restrained Bob, and the doctor says he will hold him for 72 hours because he is unwell and he could have hurt someone. The doctor who holds Bob is the same one who treated his father. She says that Bob's father was burned severely, but he survived. He says that his father's condition might have been a factor in his survival. The doctor shows Bob his father's room in the hospital, wants Bob to consider giving her a chance to continue the study. She started with his father and possibly find a cure. She gives him 72 hours to consider her proposition and locks him in his father's room. Later that night, a mysterious person helps Bob escape the hospital. Bob arrives home and Crispy calls his home phone. Crispy threatens his family and makes Bob lose it. Overhearing the conversation, Moll blames Bob for Eva's disappearance and chases him out of the house. He sees a text in Eva's text from Amelia, begging Eva to return since she fears Wayne. Bob heads out to Wayne's house, but Eva is not there. Amelia follows Bob out through the back door and gives him Eva's bag. She also tells him about Eva's condition. Bob looks through the bag and finds a bag of Chinese medicine, similar to what the man in the garage had given her. Bob heads to the garage to ask about the medicine armed with a spanner. He thinks the man has his daughter, but he gives him the name of the Chinese shop. Bob heads to the shop and meets the same woman Eva had previously interacted with in the shop. When he asked about Eva, the woman flashes back to when Eva returned to the shop and was led to the back door by a doctor. She tries to deny it, but Eva's bike is packed outside the shop. Bob removes his beanie, and the woman is shocked to see his condition. She insists that they are good people, and that the doctor would not abduct someone but look in the direction of the inner room. Bob understands her and removes his clothes as he heads into the basement. One of the men from the garage and another Chinese man attack him. Eva overhears his father's voice and starts shouting out for his help. Bob walks into the inner room after subduing the two men. He gets Eva out of the room, and the one at the counter gives them some medicine to help her. Then, he calls 911. Bob and Eva arrive home. Moll wants to call an ambulance, but Darlene knows the situation and stitches Eva and Bob. The following morning, Eva and Bob discuss their peculiar conditions. Bob says he quit hockey and left them 3 months after it started. Eva shares that she too quit gym and soccer when it started and thought it was just her, but Bob and his father have the same condition. Bob wants to leave since he can no longer stay at the house, but Eva does not want him to leave alone. She packs a carry-on and insists on going with her father. Upon consideration, they realize that Eva will be safer up north, where no one will find her, and they allow her to leave. Along the way, Bob meets up with Nelson and gives him Crispy's parcel. Crispy opens the parcel, finds screws, and gets furious. Eva and Bob arrive at his house, and she spends the next few days looking after Bob. Bob does not get better and no longer wants to trouble Eva. One night, he drives to the mill, intending to end his life. Eva tries to stop him, but he insists on leaving. Crispy arrives at the house after Bob leaves. Realizing that Eva is Bob's daughter, he tries to assault her, but something invisible knocks him off Eva, beating him up until he dies. The invisible man is Bob, but Eva can see him. Eva is glad he returned, but Bob says he could not leave her again. They throw Crisby's body at a dump, and Darlin deposits Eva's college fund into her account. It is revealed that the mysterious person who saved Bob from the mental hospital is his father, who is now invincible. Eva remembers running into the invisible man in the hospital's basement and smiles. Bob buckles up, Eva puts on her sunglasses, and the father and daughter prepare to start an adventure. This is where the film ends. People often fear facing their problems and prefer running away because it is easier and less painful. Bob's invisibility is a metaphor for how we sometimes try to hide from our problems, thinking they no longer bother us as long as they are invisible. However, no matter how shameful or daunting our problems may seem, confronting them is a significant first step to healing, reconnecting, and rebuilding relationships.